Fear is a strange feeling, a feeling used to warn us of danger. We fear things that can cause us harm, but strange people like me chase this feeling, and I desperately want to find games that make me feel true and utter fear. No, we're not doing fear today, that'll be another day. I still haven't replayed the game. And while many games have different ways of achieving that, the one fear I have found myself more scared of recently in games I've been playing is the fear of being alone in isolation. Alien Isolation is a game which is quite unique to talk about. Most of the community, the general gaming community, the horror community, the alien community, absolutely adore this game. But that one guy at IGN didn't like it, gave it a 5.9 out of 10. Fuck me, I thought he gave it a 6.9. I did not realize he was that fucking harsh on it, Jesus. But overall on Metacritic, it is seen as generally favourable with a 79 score and an 8.3 by the community. But if you do look at its Metacritic score, it does have a fairly large mixed reception. But Alien Isolation is a game that I find really interesting due to what is the story behind it. It was developed by Creative Assembly, a developer mainly focused on making strategy games, the Total War games. They're very good at making them, so shifting to a horror game in 2014 is definitely a choice to say the least. But Alien Isolation is a unique horror game. It's a very, I would say, lost style of horror game that is being less and less seen as the years go on. What do I mean by that? Well, in everything in life, every fandom, every culture, every genre, there's always a debate of what is the big three. You always see there's always three things that are the main things in that. You can do it for shooters, you can do it for RPGs, you can do it for everything. Horror games only have really two. The big two I always mention are Resident Evil and Silent Hill. These two games or franchises are two sides of the same coin. They both represent the horror genre, but they both represent very different styles of horror itself. One of them is mainly focused on survival horror, with you engaging with combat and moving through a world that is filled with horror, forcing you to deal with ammo management, item management, health management. You have to survive the horror that is oncoming. That is what true survival horror is. But also Resident Evil represents more action horror, fighting back against the horrors that are attacking you. The focus of these games is gameplay. It's often made tight, it's made to feel fun, and it's made to feel engaging. Resident Evil and the other fucking litany of survival horror games that are inspired by it. But then on the other side, you have Silent Hill. Silent Hill is slightly similar, but it's a slightly different as well. Silent Hill presents more focus on its story, focusing more on the psychological aspect of its survival horror. These games often focus on presenting a story that is more meaningful and thought-provoking. They use their horror to present more deep and more personal stories. They don't focus on the gameplay as much, they focus on diving into the story and the minds of the characters. These games are often simple in gameplay, but they can tell extremely deep and engaging stories, and this is definitely one of the more popular styles of horror game that we've been getting recently in the indie world. Think of any walking sim with very simple gameplay that tells a very deep story that is very complex and very tough to talk about. The first thought that comes to my mind is mouthwashing. That is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. But there has always been a third type of horror game that I think has been completely forgotten about that embodies a completely different type of horror. If Resident Evil is focused on these big monsters that you have to fight and they're just gross and disgusting, Silent Hill and that side is the more psychological aspect. The third one that I think has been lost to time, or is being lost to time, is atmospheric horror. The game that best embodies atmospheric horror, and the one that I see as the third of the big three, is the Amnesia franchise. Amnesia is true environmental horror. Yeah, they do have a deep story and they do have a lot of the other survival horror aspects, but the main thing that the game focuses on is immersing you and surrounding you in an atmosphere that makes you feel like shit and terrifies you. It's more a fear of what could happen and fear of the unknown that scares you more than the psychological aspect or the physical aspect of monsters. But these games often use a creature that is unkillable, that you cannot stop, to enhance this even more, make you even more freaked out by the noises that are going on. Everything is used to enhance the atmosphere, and I think that's an important point to get across. They combine a tense, eerie atmosphere with a constant threat that you cannot fully deal with and eliminate to keep you on the edge at all times and keep building that horror. Having a cat and mouse style of gameplay as the main gameplay loop. Stealth horror, as I like to call these games. And a few of these games in this genre that I think of are games like Outlast and Soma, and I know Soma is made by the same people, but these are the two that kind of kept this type of horror still alive. You can't fight your way out of anything. It doesn't really focus on a super psychological aspect. I mean, Soma does, but you get the point. It's more that atmospheric shit that makes you freak the fuck out, mainly with Outlast. But that's the type of horror that I think Alien Isolation embodies the most. This is the third pillar of horror that is kind of been slowly faded away because it just isn't as popular. It doesn't grab as many people as a psychological horror, and it isn't as fun to play as something like an action survival horror like Resident Evil. And I'm sure many of you don't really even think about this as well. If I asked you what your favorite horror game is, I would imagine most of them would fall into one of these two categories. I know most games dip and flip and basically spread themselves between all three of them, but I think you can pin each game specifically in each category. For example, Dead Space 2 I outlined is an extremely psychologically driven horror game, but at the end of the day, it's still a purebred action horror game. It belongs in that section. But this third category I think is such a shame because we don't see many games that actually use it and embody truly what this horror can be. We see it less and less each year. And when we do see it, it's often used for games that are just not very good. I'm not going to name names, but certain mascot horror games try to be these kinds of games. But when it's done really well, and it's done properly, you can create some of the greatest horror that a game can give. When I played Amnesia: The Dark Descent for the channel, I felt things that I hadn't felt for years from a horror game. I felt actual fear because of how the atmosphere builds itself up and immerses you in the game. This is something that a lot of games struggle to really do well. And Alien Isolation embodies this third type better than almost any other game in the horror genre and subgenre at that, maybe except for Amnesia itself. But what makes Alien Isolation such a beloved game, and why did that IGN reviewer get it wrong? Or did he get it right? That might be what my opinion is. You never know. Who knows? But let's get into the game and find out, shall we?
Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo. Third officer reporting. The other members of the crew: Kane, Lambert, Parker, Brett, Ash, and Captain Dallas, are dead. Cargo and ship destroyed. I should reach the frontier in about 6 weeks. With a little luck, the network will pick me up. This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
The game opens with dialogue from Ripley aboard the Nostromo, reporting the casualties of aboard that ship, telling us that Alien Isolation's story is going to be heavily linked to the first movie. And this is kind of a double-edged sword in my eyes. I like the Alien franchise. I'm not a massive fan of it, I'm not a massive nerd on it, I'm a fan of other things, but I am an enjoyer of the films. I do enjoy them and its universe. But connecting a game to the film in some way ties it down a bit, requiring, in my eyes, people to be familiar with the source material. And this can be an issue for someone who might just want to pick up the game on a whim. This is a big issue that sequels often face, because how do you jump into a sequel if you don't know the past 10 games in the series? I'm sure there is many people who have played this game in recent years that have never watched an Alien film, as people are watching less films now, and they will be confused about what is going on if they haven't watched the first film, because this entire opening dialogue is almost meaningless to them. They don't understand what it actually means and what events they missed out on within that first film. So if you haven't watched the film, I wouldn't recommend playing Alien Isolation. If you want my opinion, watch the film first and then play Alien Isolation, because it makes it a bit better and you actually understand a bit more what's going on. Also, you won't be confused. But if you haven't watched the film and you're just watching this because you feel like it, I'll do my best to explain to the best of my ability what's going on. Again, I'm not an Alien expert. But also, I have this thing where I don't like it when universes keep connecting back to something. This is kind of my issue that originated with mainly Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars guy. I was. But the almost need to keep connecting material back to like the original characters and like the original stories almost hinders the universe and makes it feel so much smaller. One of my favorite things in Star Wars is the Old Republic. I love both KOTOR games and I even don't mind the MMO, but the fact that these have been just kind of pushed to the side and everything that is from Star Wars now is somehow, some way, shape or form connected to these Skywalker films and their characters just makes it feel so much smaller in terms of a universe size. And I don't really like it when things like this, an Alien game which you could make your own characters, your own stories up, everything, connect to the original source material, because it just feels lazy in a way. Big nitpick, but it's just my personal opinion. I would much prefer something completely unique. Now, honestly, for Alien Isolation, it isn't that big of an issue if you haven't watched the film. Once you get past the opening of the game and you get into the more of the meat of the game, the film ties kind of just sort of drift away and they kind of take a back seat, which then brings up the question, why even tie it into the film? Like, why even have this initial narrative hook part of the film? I don't know, but it's clear that they didn't want to make it completely reliant on you being familiar with the film, but they also wanted to bring in fans of the film. I don't know, man. But the reason I say you probably have to is the entire narrative setup and hook of the game, the thing that's meant to hook you in, is tied to the movie. So if you haven't watched the movie, you won't understand who these characters are, what their relationship is, and why they want to do what they are doing. I always think any narrative, sequel, spin-off game, whatever it is, needs to be able to stand on its own. And Alien Isolation honestly cannot stand on its own. Not really. It needs that first film to be there for it to exist, but then the film needs to be there for Alien Isolation to exist, because if the film wasn't successful, then the game would never have been made. Complex topic, but I do think this is an issue that probably not many people talk about. It just feels a bit unnecessary. I think anything needs to be able to be enjoyed in isolation on its own. Hey, name of the game. But that's it. I just think it needs to be able to be its own thing and live like that. But let's meet our main protagonists for the game, shall we?
Ripley? I'm Samuels. I work for the company. It's about your mother. We think we may have found her, Amanda. A commercial vessel, the Anisadora, has recovered what we believe to be the flight recorder unit of the Nostromo.
Where?
Zeta Reticula.
What did it tell you?
We don't know. The unit was taken to Sevastopol Station. It's proprietorial material, so the company wants it to be collected as soon as possible. Sevastopol's a supply depot in the region. It's a permanent free port
I know what it
facility.
is.
Transit's arranged. There's a courier ship called the Torrens heading out that way in 2 days. We're going to travel out.
We?
Me and another exec. And you. if you're willing. Look, Ripley, when this job came across my desk, I read the case history. I know why you're working in the region where she went missing. You're still looking, aren't you? I've been cleared to offer you a place on the Torrance if you want to come along. Maybe there'll be some closure for you.
So we are taking the role of Amanda Ripley in the year 2137, 15 years after the events of the first movie. This is Ellen Ripley, the main protagonist of the film's daughter. You're seeing the connection? Fun fact, Amanda Ripley was mentioned once in the second film of Ellen Ripley, her mother, after being in hypersleep for about 50 years, I think, and finds a photo of her as an old woman. It's an interesting inclusion in my opinion, and does very closely tie the narrative to the first film, with it all being focused on the recovery of the flight recorder of the Nostromo, which was the ship in the first film, because the ship went missing and the flight recorder was somehow recovered, so we now need to go find it to see what happened to our mother. It's a simple hook, it's a simple setup, it makes sense, we understand why Amanda wants to do it, and even if you haven't watched the film, you still get it because the game does state that her mother has been missing, but man, that first film will just add so much more context to this entire narrative point. What about this other character that we meet here? Samuels here is a Weyland-Yutani synthetic worker who came here to ask Amanda to come with him, as the company has very graciously given her an opportunity to also go find the recorder and see what was on it. Why does the company allow this? Well, the company knows that Amanda has been searching the segment that she believes her mother went missing for her. She has been searching this entire time for her. It's a rather kind gesture from a mega corporation who in the films is only known for their greed. They do love a Benjamin and they will do anything for it. But it seems that they just want to help give Amanda some form of closure. So now we head out with Samuels and we get on board the Torrens, and after a quick kip in hypersleep, we fast approach our destination and we now get pulled into the game itself, and we are immediately introduced to one of Alien Isolation's greatest strengths, its visuals and atmosphere. The team at Creative Assembly not only created a world which is really well made, which embodies and fully reflects the source material that is adapting, from the lighting, the sound effects, every prop and object you see, to even the music, it all just pulls you in, and having such a good replication of the source material makes it that more engaging for fans of those original films. But for a horror game, this makes it even more immersive. Immersion is something that is extremely important for a horror game, and incredibly important for a horror game that is focused on atmospheric horror. Atmospheric horror requires the player to always be engaged with the game and for it to always be building up the tension. And having a game that is so immersive and everything is basically interactable makes it that much easier to keep the player engaged. If you keep them immersed and make the world feel as real and reflective of the source material as possible, it keeps them engaged. As I stated, the main inspiration most likely for this game would be a game like Amnesia. I focus on atmospheric and tension building rather than that horror that other games have, constant jump scares and just throwing shit at you to fight. But not only does having this really well built world helps with the world building, the Alien franchise is massive. The world and lore is very deep and extremely expansive as well. There is decades worth of films, books, comics, and other games as well, and Creative Assembly did actually do a really good job at building up the world even more, almost making another segment of the world filled in for the franchise. The amount of just world building they do once we enter the main area of the game and the stories you can find, like what happened before you got there, make it that much more immersive and keep you engaged much more, but also a again, being able to tell these small stories in a game, little audio logs, notes that recount what happened, retell the horrors of what we're going to face, makes us feel even more scared. This is why horror games love notes and audio logs. It allows the player to feel tension. They fear what is to come. But this opening section is really cool on the Torrens, as it allows you to get slightly familiar with the controls, but also teaches you how to loot, kind of. The game doesn't really tell you a lot. You have little green lights which will indicate to you what can be opened, interacted with. Red lights will indicate something is locked or inaccessible at the moment, and everything else is just set dressing. But you'll find yourself looking in every nook and cranny for little pieces that you can use to craft items, find audio logs and notes, but you'll quickly realize that Alien Isolation has aspects from another genre, that genre being immersive sims. Games like System Shock, Dishonored, games where you can interact with the world and use equipment to deal with enemies in very creative ways. And while Alien Isolation isn't a true immersive sim, it has elements of an immersive sim which are used to enhance the horror gameplay, which I'm sure you'll figure out what I mean by that as we get later into the game. But now in one of the rooms we can find a save point, and this is a key mechanic of Alien Isolation. The game implements a hard save style of save systems. There is no checkpoint auto saves in this game. You put your card in, you save there. If you die, you go back to the last point you saved at. This is a somewhat smart way to build tension and build horror in games, because the threat of losing progress is a punishment. It makes you more scared, and it makes you feel like you should be more careful because you don't want to lose progress, because losing hours of progress can be a terrifying thing. But this is a very risky system to implement. You'll often notice that games don't use this system anymore, because if done wrong, if it's not done correctly, it cannot just cause that more tension-filled gameplay to be there, it can also cause frustration. And I'll comment more on this a bit later, once we actually get into a proper section of the game. But after getting dressed, we can meet the people that we are heading to Sevastopol with. One of them being the synthetic we met earlier, Samuels, and the other one being Taylor, an executive administrator and lawyer for Weyland-Yutani. And she is here to sort the case out for the company, as they lost a hell of a lot of money with the Nostromo going missing. But now we head to the bridge as we go to dock on Sevastopol.
Can we see it?
Switch to monitors. Sevastopol Station.
Is that damage?
It looks like damage.
Punch up 74, tight angle.
Looks like the dry dock bay is screwed.
I can't bring the Torrens into that.
This is a commercial vessel, Torrens out of St. Clair, registration number MSV7760, calling Sevastopol Traffic Control. We're carrying 3 passengers on a
Weyland-Yutani Bond. You're holding the Nostromo flight recorder unit. We request immediate permission to transfer the passengers port side over.
This waits. Colonial Marshal, Sevastopol Station. Serious situation.
Hello, Marshal? Marshal, this is the Torrens. Say again?
Well, it seems that the station is damaged and a dry dock bay cannot be used, so we are going to have to spacewalk our way to the station.
The station's comms seem pretty screwed up, so I fitted Samuel's suit with a radio booster. I can only keep the Torrens in transit for 24 hours.
You'll have heard from us by then.
Safe trip.
Stand by. My contract doesn't cover bloody spacewalks. It's the only option, and it's perfectly safe if you do what I tell you. Depressurizing. Fuck. Hating this. Just shadow me, Taylor. You too, Samuels.
Affirmative.
And guess what? This game has my favourite thing that Dead Space loved to do in its second and third game.
You're doing good, Tim.
Of course, all hell breaks loose. I don't know what's with space things and shit just blowing up. There is going to be a lot of this in the game, and almost to a comedic amount in my opinion, but it is explained that the Sevastopol Station is extremely old and was meant to be decommissioned, so the systems on board are basically breaking all the time, and because people aren't fixing them, because shit has gone wrong, the station just starts blowing up randomly. It is a bit comedic where it just happens like 6 or 7 times throughout the game, but hey, it was kind of a trend during the time just to sort of blow things up randomly. But with us being launched over to Sevastopol and grabbing onto it to not be launched into the cold abyss of space, we quickly realised that the other 2 people that were with us have disappeared into the abyss of space. I'm sure that they're fine and they found another way in. And we are fine as well, of course. I guess not. But now we actually enter Sevastopol itself, a supply depot station and the main location that we'll be exploring for the entire game, with our first objective being to find help, which involves us falling down some more into a dark abyss. And now finding our first item in the game, the flare. The flare is an interesting item as not only will there be a light source that you can use to light up a whole room or place to keep a specific room lit, you will find out that the AI in this game react to light. So throwing a flare can be a way to distract the different types of enemies that you will meet during your time here on Sevastopol. But what do I think of Sevastopol as a location? It's really cool. It's definitely a unique location for a horror game because we don't get many space, well, that's a fucking lie. We get quite a few space horror games, but I do quite like Sevastopol. It's very much meant to be everything is there that you need. There's a medical bay, a shopping area, a relax and recuperation area. It's just a general area that people would use to park up, chill out for a bit until they go on their next job in the area. So it is cool, and it reminds me almost of an airport at times in how it's laid out. I do like the location, but my main problem with it is all of the hallways look very similar because it's built by one company, so it all just sort of blends together. But that does add to the horror because sometimes you'll feel yourself getting lost because you'll see the same location 4 times in all different places, and you'll just sort of freak out thinking that you've looped back on yourself. But the main cool thing about how this map is built up is you'll quickly notice that something is very wrong with this place. You'll notice that there's a bunch of graffiti on the wall telling us that something very bad has happened here on the station, and a piece of advice to us to keep moving. It's clear that something has gone wrong, not only because there is absolutely no one about, but things have been destroyed and graffiti and a sense of uncivilized activity has gone on. But getting the power back on, we can turn back on a bunch of the systems and we can see some people doing the most Scooby-Doo ass run away from something. And within the next area, which very much looks like an airport terminal, we can see the Torrens is still outside orbiting the station. But more importantly, we can find recordings from someone about a riot occurring and the marshals addressing the rumors about what has been happening on the station, but they weren't being fully truthful. People got scared, a panic ensued, people threw objects and bullets were fired, telling us that the marshals weren't trying to keep people safe, they were trying to control them. Something was being hidden or something serious has been going down. And getting through to the next part, we find a room with a bunch of bodies in body bags. But the door in front of us is locked, so we need to find a maintenance jack to take the lock off the door, which isn't too hard. Just navigate some vents, bing bang bitch, here's the jack, and we can find an audio log of the guy who had the jack dead on the floor. Zachary here complained that the marshals were not protecting them, that they were hiding something on the station. Like I said, something happened and the marshals were trying to control people, not protect them. That is a key point. The marshals are meant to be basically the police of space. The fact that they're not trying to protect the people but control them tells us that there is some serious corporate or governmental corruption going on. But it's clear that something very bad has happened on the station. But taking the jack back to the central locked door, we can now meet one of these friendly survivors.
Stay still.
Okay. Okay.
Now, turn around. Come on!
I'm Ripley.
Where'd you come from? Ripley?
Off station. A ship.
There's no ships here!
There are now.
Well, that's good news, because things are not so good here. Something blue just now robbed this whole place.
I saw it.
But lady, that's the least of our problems.
Yeah?
Yeah, something's on this station. Something you wouldn't believe.
Like what?
A killer. You get it?
Okay. Okay. What's your name?
Axel.
I was boarding with 2 colleagues. EVA. We got separated by the blast. Can you help me find them?
Why?
Because you seem to know your way around.
I mean, why? What's in it for me?
A place on the ship.
How do I know I can trust you?
I need to find comms. I need to contact my ship.
This is your lucky day.
Axel is a very interesting character, and the one that kind of introduces a main narrative point that we'll have to think about throughout the entire game. Who can we trust? Can we trust these survivors? Can we trust the company that sent us here? Can we trust the systems that are in place? That is a big focus of the game, and that is a key central theme of the Alien franchise, with people turning on each other, corporate greed, corporate corruption. The Alien franchise often looks into how large corporations will sacrifice people to get what they see as beneficial, or something that they believe will give them immense wealth. But Alien Isolation does introduce this in kind of an interesting way that I thought would have been way more impactful for the game. A hint that you'll occasionally get in loading screens, you can figure out if other humans are friendly or not just by listening to them, and Axel himself gives us a warning to be cautious around other humans, as they are all just trying to survive, and some of them are more aggressive than others. And I really thought, oh shit, this is going to be some cool mechanic where some situations in this game we can weasel our way out of. We can be friendly with people and just walk past them. We can listen and figure out if they will attack us or let us go, if they're just trying to survive and look for things, or if they're going to kill us on sight. And does the game do that? Kind of, but it ain't that complicated. I really thought this was going to be a bigger part of the game, but there isn't really ever the option or ever a point where you can figure out if a human is friendly or not friendly. There is a few sections where there are NPCs who are friendly, who won't attack you if you run into them, but they'll often be sitting down, they'll be hiding, or they'll be injured. And anytime you see a human NPC walking around with a gun, they will always shoot at you if you are spotted, and this kind of disappointed me when I played the game. I know it's a bit nitpicky, but I feel like kind of presenting this thing as something that you might have to face, having to decide if you want to fight humans or you can figure out how to avoid them, or figure out if you don't even have to fight them, is a really cool gameplay mechanic, but then you don't really ever get that option ever presented to you, and it's a bit of a shame in my eyes. But with Axel here, we continue our adventure, dodging other survivors who might kill us if they spot us, and Axel here is kind of here to teach us how we should navigate and use stealth to slip our way through the station, using the vents and staying out of sight as much as possible, using the dark to remain in the shadows. But also at this point we are given a flashlight, which has a very limited battery, so you have to pick and choose when you use it, because this thing will run out of batteries like your Xbox 360 controller that has shit batteries in it. It will just die on you randomly. Now Axel and us slip past some looters who are arguing about missing supplies, which again, a theme of the Alien franchise is how quickly people will turn on each other. So we quickly distract them and then slip past even further behind them. And here we have another issue requiring us to reactivate the power. But guess what happens as soon as we reactivate the power? Well, I guess we should go save him.
Fuck.
Let's go. The others are on their way. We need to go! Now!
Oh well, guess we should run now, considering that Axel just shot a fucking gun and everyone heard it and are now chasing us. But upon reaching a dead end, Axel and Ripley here have a little chat.
Come on!
You killed that guy!
Because he was going to kill me, you saved my life. This is about survival. Do you understand? Hear something? I hear something.
Axel?
Fuck have I got on me?
And we get our first sight of Alan in space. No one can hear you in space. I fucking love that shirt. I want to buy it. And the alien, or I guess aliens, are the best part of the entire game, but I'll talk more about them as we get into an actual section with them, because this is kind of just a first glimpse of it and we don't really get to see how it works gameplay wise. So now, using the transit station, we can escape to the Seegson communication area, and here we have our first human encounter with a group of people who will immediately shoot at us if they spot us.
Stay back! Shit!
And they want to kill us no matter what we do. We cannot try to talk to them, we cannot try to convince them to leave us alone. They will immediately try to kill us. And that's mainly due to us grabbing some of their equipment, being the security access tunnel, but we'll need to find some parts to repair it, and this will allow us to hack open certain doors once it's repaired, opening entirely new sections of the station. But we quickly sneak our way around these people and go to find a data cell in order to repair the tuner. This section is really simple, but it is really fun because it's the first time the game kind of takes the safety rails off. Axel is dead and isn't guiding us anymore, so it's all up to us in determining how we deal with these humans and stealth itself, how we deal with stealth, how we maneuver and move around. But getting past them lads and lasses, in one of the reception desks we can find our first weapon, the revolver, and this thing sucks fucking dick. The revolver is cool, it looks cool, it's a gun, you can shoot it, but why do I say it's bad? Well, it's because this thing is shit. It does almost no damage to anything, and it makes a shit ton of noise. The main trade-off that a gun should represent in this game is that you can deal with an enemy very easily that isn't the alien, but it makes a lot of noise. You shoot it to deal with, say, a human enemy, one bullet, but that will attract the alien over to you. So if you can hide and wait the alien out, you basically deal with the issue. Problem is, the revolver takes multiple shots to kill things. Later on in the game, the working Joes, the synthetic enemies in the game, can take 4, 5, 6 shots to kill. Doesn't help that the shooting mechanics in this game are very bad, like hitbox wise and aiming wise. It just feels off. You can tie that into the idea that, oh, Amanda isn't familiar with using the guns, but when the crosshair shrinks like in Resident Evil and I've got it on their head, I pull the trigger and the bullet fucking goes off the wrong turning on the M25, just fucks off. How am I meant to actually adapt to that? This just feels like very poorly made shooting mechanics that were added in almost rushed or very simply that just don't feel great. And that's a big problem I actually have for this game, is the shooting mechanics. I really did think that the shooting part of the game would be a tiny part of the game. Like, you would get like in total 10 bullets for the revolver and you could kill 10 enemies. But no, the game later on does turn into almost a proper survival horror game with just 3 main guns that you use to shoot things. Oh, actually 4. I did not like it. I never like it when you're shooting stuff in games like this. One of the best things about something like Amnesia is you never get a way to kill things. You just have to avoid things, and I love that about Amnesia. Yeah, I know Amnesia the Bunker does have a gun, but I'm talking about the best Amnesia game, the first one. Alien Isolation's shooting mechanics are not fun. They're very boring, and then later in the game when it starts pushing combat more and more, it just falls flat in my opinion. But in the next room, in a workshop, we can collect a couple of blueprints for some very important items that I do like. One being the flashbang, which is self-explanatory. You flashbang through the door, blows up, and you go through. And the other being the smoke bomb, also very useful as you deploy it, and it allows you to evade detection. These two items can save your life if used correctly, and they can be used whenever you want throughout the entire game on the alien, working Joes, regular humans. They all have their own uses and can be used in different ways for different enemy types. But here we can now actually find what we boarded the station for, the flight recorder aboard the Nostromo.
Oh god. The flight recorder.
I really hope we get what we want from it.
What? No! God!
Oh, I guess we're not. Seems that all the data that was once stored on the recorder has been completely corrupted, and now we have been locked in by a lockdown sequence. But luckily we find the exact data cell that we need to repair our hacking device, allowing us to hack open the doors, escaping the lockdown. Very convenient, it was in the same room as the flight recorder. But unfortunately, the entire area has now been put on lockdown. So with this hacking device, we use it to go further into a new area in this engineering repair area to try lift the lockdown. But once we do that, we are paid a visit by the very funny This is our first proper section with the Xenomorph. And what do I actually think of the Xenos in Alien Isolation? Well, this gameplay loop is the core gameplay loop, the cat and mouse gameplay. The alien itself, the Xeno, has been praised by many people for being one of the coolest AI enemies we have ever seen in gaming. But we hear a lot of people praise it, but why is that? Well, I will do my best to describe how it works. Obviously, I didn't make the fucking thing, but I have looked at dev interviews and other videos that try to describe it as best as possible, and I'll give the basic outline for it. The alien itself is controlled technically by two different AIs, which are two AIs that interact with each other in order to try kill you. One is the director AI, and the other is the alien AI, as I will call them. The director AI directly observes the player and your actions throughout the entire game, watching where you go, what you do, what you pick up, where you hide, if you go in lockers, under beds, under tables. It looks at everything and records all of it. It watches what you do when you are confronted with the alien especially. But then you have the alien AI. The alien, when it's moving about, is constantly making decisions on where to look, where to walk, where to go, how it's going to react to sound and light. That's the key thing. Its sight is broken up into three different sections, basically three cones of vision, and all three of these visions act differently. One is the direct vision. This is if the alien is looking directly at you with nothing obstructing you, like smoke or a bed or something else that you're hiding behind and peeking over, it will see you and sprint straight at you to kill you. It then has a peripheral vision cone, which is a weaker sight, allowing you to have moments where it will walk into a room straight past you, and if you're hugging the door, it might not spot you if you're crouching, allowing you to sneak past it, even though you're technically within its sight. However, if you move quickly, like standing up and walk, or if you run for a second, it will react to that via the sight or sound. And then it has a third vision, which is a cone on the back of its head, which are very close to it. This is here to stop you from tailing the alien, just following it, which would obviously break the game because you would never be caught by it if you always just stuck behind it. This means that if you get too close to the alien, it will just immediately 180 and grab you. But if it was just this, it wouldn't be that good. It would just be a very basic enemy type. Yeah, it's quite complex in all the different ways it reacts to sound and light, But the most interesting thing is how the Director AI and the Alien AI interact with each other. The Director AI will tell the Alien AI your general location. That's why it always feels like the alien is following you, like it always is around you, because you can be in one room, make a noise, it will come to you, and if you sneak past it and go to the other side of an area, it will still somehow locate you. This ensures that the tension in the game is always high. It ensures that when you're playing, that the alien is never just in a room doing something, just completely distracted, just fucking around. It ensures that you always have to deal with it. You always have to move around, sneak and hide from it while it's trying to find you. It keeps that pressure and that horror at a height. But as the game goes on, the alien itself learns mainly from what the director has recorded. For example, if you hide in a room, let's say a closet, the alien will enter the room, do a scan and leave. But if you stay in that room for a certain amount of time, the director will tell the alien that you are in that room again. The alien will then return to that room and do a more thorough search. And if it again misses you, the director might tell the alien what you are in and what room you're in. So if there is only, say, one closet in the room and it comes in, it will find you if the director told it that you were in a closet. Basically, the director keeps feeding the alien more information that it doesn't know, but it will always start in almost a hierarchy, starting with the general area, then the specific room, then what you're hiding under, and then it will get to the point where it will tell it directly what you're hiding under or hiding in. This means that if you are too scared to move and you just stay put for too long, you will lose. The game does want to encourage you to hide and be patient, but it also wants to discourage you from cowering in a corner. It wants you to know that you staying in one place means you are never safe. If you stop moving, the alien will eventually find you with the director telling it what to do, basically. This just guarantees that you keep playing the game. It means that you'll never stop. You always have to move. It is easily one of the most fun enemies and fun AI systems to watch work, because you can very clearly see once it's been fed information and once it realizes where you might be and it goes to act on that information. It is constantly being fed information, not only from the director, but from the world itself. From the actions you do, like using a flare, throwing it across the room, it will see the light and go investigate it. Or if you run around making sound, it will know where you are. But the director AI itself isn't only trying to get the player killed, because if it was, the game would be miserable. It would be way too hard. The director AI is trying to make the game as enjoyable as possible for the player. It almost works exactly the same way as the director AI works in Left 4 Dead. If the game is too easy, if you're slipping past the alien and making significant progress very quickly, it will often feel like the alien will do a funny and just pop up right in front of you. The game will start being harder. The alien will start being in locations that you are either in locations that you have to go to, or it will just directly beam towards you because the game knows you're basically finding the game too easy and it wants to throw some of that horror at you. This is how Left 4 Dead works as well. If you go through the game not getting hit, killing everything, it will start throwing more special infected at you, more hordes at you. It will also spawn zombies in more complex locations to surprise you. But the alien does this by using the vents. It will go up in the vents and then relocate itself to be in a more prime position to make it more challenging. But the other fun thing is how the other enemies interact with the alien. Those humans who just shot at us, if they keep shooting, the alien will react to them and can kill them. But in Seegson's communications, we can meet a new enemy type or a new character thing, the Worker Joes.
Hello? My name's Ripley, Amanda Ripley. I need your help.
Please take a seat. Someone will be with you shortly.
No wonder Seegson is losing the tech race.
Who isn't very helpful, but something that is helpful is the tracker that we can pick up, which we can now use to track the location of beings, synthetic or living, and this thing will be extremely useful. Just don't use it when the alien is right next to you, as we will hear the beeping noise that it makes when it detects something. But despite us desperately needing to contact our ship, we are not allowed to, so we sneak into the vents to see what we can do and if we can do a little hacking to actually contact it. But we can see what will happen if a Worker Joe spots us in a restricted area.
We've got to re-establish long-range communications.
You're becoming hysterical.
Get back! I'm warning you!
Don't. Let's resolve this after.
Well, that doesn't seem too fun now, does it? But the fun thing about the Alien franchise is, I think, all these synthetics that are created by these big companies are meant to be designed as unable to kill or do something that might harm humans. And this one just killed a guy. Bit scary that, innit? It kind of reflects some reality of what could happen. But they will be the third enemy type that we will face and have to deal with in the game. So what do I think of the Working Joes as an enemy? Well, they certainly are an enemy type. I think early on they're actually a lot more scary than later on. They're this thing that will just persistently try to deal with you if they spot you. And they don't run, they walk quickly, almost like Michael Myers, and it makes them a little bit more intimidating than if they sprinted at you. At the beginning, you don't actually have a lot of kit to deal with them. You've got your revolver, which can kill them, but with 10 rounds, you can only really kill one of them and do a little bit of damage to the other one. You can use a stun baton to stun one and then beat it up, but again, stun batons are few and far between. Early on, you're forced into avoiding them. Later in the game, you're forced into fighting them, which I think is when they become kind of boring. They just walk, so when they're forced at you and you have a gun that can one-shot them later, it's pretty boring, I'll be honest. The fear factor from them is completely taken away and they're not scary anymore. They're just targets to shoot. But what is cool about the robots is that they interact with the other enemy types in unique ways. So if a human enemy with a gun is within their range and they spot them, the Working Joe will go and fight the human enemy. Or if they spot the alien, they will be confused and talk to it. This either allows you to clear out a certain enemy type, or it will allow you to keep track of the alien and where it's going, because the Working Joe will just start following it, trying to talk to it. It does make it really cool when all these enemy types start interacting with each other, but unfortunately I wish that they interacted more with each other. Like, I think it would have been really cool to see the alien kill the Working Joes, just destroy them because they start trying to restrain it or something like that, but they just sort of stand there. Unless it's human, then they will kill them and then walk off. The interactions are somewhat limited, but it is cool to see, and I'm very excited to see what they do in the sequel, because hopefully they expand it more and add more enemy types that interact with each other in interesting ways. But now, avoiding the robots, we make it to the communications bay and have to make contact with the Torrent by resetting the comms. And I actually do like this section, as not only is there a bunch of Working Joes walking about, but if you're too loud, the alien will come to play as well. It's just a fun section that I think is kind of the best embodiment of the game and how it works, with having to do the puzzle solving where you have the Working Joes patrolling, but then also the alien can come in to attack you if you do it wrong, if you make too much noise or you get a bit too scrappy with the robots. But to help us deal with these Working Joes, once we start to see that there is 2, 3, 4 of them, we now get access to a new throwable, the EMP mine, which can be used to deactivate them for a short amount of time, either allowing you to run away from them or destroy them by beating them up. Honestly, probably one of the most useful items in the game, because it is one of the most consistent ways to deal with Working Joes without getting hit. The stun batons, sometimes they will grab you first before you can actually hit them. It's just a coin flip sometimes, and sometimes you just don't get hit. If you don't hit them with the stun baton quick enough, they will just grab you instantly. But the EMP mine allows you to keep your distance, throw it, and then run in and slap them up with your wrench. But finally getting to cut the comms online, we can get back in contact with Samuels.
Samuels! You're alive! It's Ripley!
Ripley! Taylor, it's Ripley. We were getting worried.
I made it! Where are you?
We're at a transit station now. It's right by medical.
Okay. Samuels, listen to me. It's not safe here. Seegson's got this place locked tight. They're goddamn androids. They're killing people.
That's impossible. It's contrary to primary synthetic programming.
I've seen it, Samuels. I guess Seegson's got a different idea about synthetics. And there's something else here. A creature. It's big and it's lethal.
Ripley, slow down. A creature?
It's a life form. An unknown type. Some kind of alien organism. It's extremely dangerous. You and Taylor need to make...
Taylor is hurt. She was injured by debris during the crossing.
How bad?
I can't move her. I need medical supplies. We need to treat and pack the injury.
And the Torrens?
The radio is broken. I can't contact Verlaine. We're on our own.
Shit. Okay. I'll come to you. Keep your eyes open.
I'll send a transit car to you.
Well, now we are going to head to regroup with Samuels and Taylor in the medical bay, but now all the worker Joes will be after us as the system has flagged an unauthorized use of the system. But reaching the pair, we see that Taylor isn't doing too good, and now Apollo, the ship's AI, has enforced a lockdown on the transit systems. So now we need to head out into the medical area to find a trauma kit to save Taylor. And this medical section has us being guided by one of the surviving doctors still alive, and he helps us navigate the medical area, all while the alien and a couple of human enemies are patrolling the area as well. This is kind of the proper first area of Alien Isolation, where it actually throws the alien at you immediately. It's not like the previous one where if you make too much noise it will spawn in. This is the first point where the alien is there at all times. This is the true core gameplay loop. The alien will patrol, you have to sneak around, hide from it, collect items, find clues, find keys, and make your way through it until you achieve your objective. Now the alien is good fun. If it spots you, you die. It's simple, but we do have a problem. As I mentioned earlier, the way the game handles saves, this can get extremely frustrating extremely quick. Hard save points as checkpoints are quite the risky choice to do in games. If you get spotted by the alien, you will die. The only way you can survive it is by throwing something at it that will distract it or stun it, allowing you to hide. So if you throw a flashbang at it in time, you will stun it and you'll have to run away and find somewhere to hide to avoid being killed. If you shoot it, it won't stun it because it isn't strong enough with the revolver. Another gun will stun it, only for a short period of time. So the problem in this section is you don't really have a way to deal with the alien. You don't have a way to stun it and keep it in place for a significant amount of time consistently. You are forced to stealth it entirely. And unfortunately, if you die, you get sent back to your last save point. And the medical section is quite a long section, and it means that you have to redo everything. The fun thing about this game is if you find a code on a computer, you can't just use the code on the door that you know it's for. You have to go get the code again. So what it leads to is you redoing the same 4 steps over and over again because you mess up, say, on step 2 at one point, step 3 at another point, step 1 at another point. It can get frustrating. The whole point of having hard saves and you losing progress in the game is meant to enhance the horror. But unfortunately, if a game does this poorly, in my opinion, it makes the game more annoying than stressful. There is a very fine line between stressing the player out in the name of fear and frustrating them. And there is a couple of points within this game where save points are hidden in really odd spots. And I know they make a sound to guide you towards them, but unfortunately with how the game's sound system works, it's not 100% like you know exactly where it is. Sound travels realistically in this game. It will bounce off of walls and point you in different directions, meaning that you can't entirely rely on your ears to find save points. Combine this with the whole point of doing these puzzles, which can be really long and just completely fucking tedious, of just going to a terminal, getting a code, unlocking something, grabbing a key card, going to a door, unlocking the door, going into that door to then find something else that then does something else, so on and so forth. You can quickly find yourself being in spots in the game. If you're not good at hiding from the alien, you will have to replay these sections over and over and over again because the alien will just find you. I remember this happened a few months ago when I went to play this game. I was playing it on one of the harder difficulties and the alien is fucking ruthless on those harder difficulties. Okay, so I fucked up a bit. For this playthrough that you're watching that I did for the video, as in the one I entirely recorded, I played on normal, the medium difficulty, because I assumed that was the normal difficulty. Alien Isolation's normal difficulty is hard. When I first played, when I played the game a few months ago, I played on Nightmare, and it's very fun. I didn't actually complete the game because I dropped the game for some reason. I think another game came out that I wanted to play, and I just never came back to Alien Isolation. But I didn't realize that the medium difficulty was actually technically easy and hard is normal. Now, I did find the game fairly easy on this playthrough. I went through it, I never really found myself struggling. There was a couple of sections where I got annoyed because I would lose 20 minutes of progress and I'd have to re-record it all. That just annoys me because storage space, you get the point. But I never found myself actually struggling with the game and how the aliens attacks you. And I thought it was because I accidentally played on the wrong difficulty. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the game on the medium difficulty, but I definitely think I should have played it on a harder difficulty. I don't know if that would have made a difference though. I actually did my own research into what the differences is between all the difficulties. And a lot of people don't actually know what the differences are that much, but it mainly has to do with how the senses work for the alien. So how it reacts to noise, light, sound, you get the point, everything. Its senses are sharper. It can hear at longer distances, it can see you more easily, but also the director is more aggressive. It will give it information faster. So the actual gameplay loop isn't too different, it's just more intense, if that makes sense. Now, I have played the game now, not again, but parts of the game on hard, and yes, it is harder, like it is. The alien's way more fun to play against, but I actually think despite this being the better way to play, the frustrations get worse with this. If the alien's more aggressive and kills you more often, you're going to feel the pressure of that save problem I mentioned, where you're going to lose 20, 30, maybe an hour worth of progress just because you mess up once. Honestly though, trying to figure out the differences between the different difficulties put my head through a fucking loop, because some people say there is differences and some people say there isn't. When I've done my own testing, I can see there is slight differences, mainly in how reactive the alien is, but the overall difficulty of the game is still kind of the same. And a lot of my points later on, talking about certain weapons and how they interact with the game, still applies. Like, they're still as effective as they are in things like Nightmare. So no matter what I was playing on, I would still have the same experience. But yeah, I thought I'd let you know that I did not mean to actually play on normal. I wanted to play on the intended difficulty, which is hard. If I would actually take 4 seconds to read and not just assume, then I would be playing on hard. But also, does this fucking annoy anyone else? Like, how is the intended difficulty, the one that the game is designed around, called hard, and then medium, or what should be called normal difficulty, is easy? Like, that's not how that should work, right? Am I going crazy? I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like that's just the normal way games should be structured. But anyway, back to the video. This section specifically, I remember, I spent 3 hours, I think, trying to get through it. But that's because I didn't really understand the game's mechanics and how to avoid the alien consistently. The game very quickly frustrated me, and I wasn't scared of it. As soon as it spotted me, I just gave up. This is nitpicky beyond anything, I know, but how the saves work in this game, I actually think does leave a detriment in some way. There are points in this game which do have a checkpoint save on them. Once you reach a certain point, it will hard save at that point. So it's not that they don't want to use that sort of system, it's just they choose not to. If you forget to save at a save point as well, goodbye 2 or 3 hours of gameplay if you die. It's a system that, yes, I do like, and I think does enhance the horror, but I think very quickly can be frustrating if the player doesn't engage with it right, or the player just struggles with a certain section. Now, I'm not saying that you need to save after every single thing, but I think if you get a code and you die, let us use the code on the door immediately. Don't make us fucking run around to find the code. Yes, does that break technically the logic and the world and whatever? It makes no sense because technically we didn't know the code in game already at this point, but who cares? Reward the player for actually doing what they were meant to do. Yes, they got caught, but don't punish us completely by removing all that progress when we can't even save the progress at any point. Also, another thing that I found really weird was the alien does kill human enemies, but sometimes it will just ignore them entirely. Enemies will be talking, they will shoot at you, and the alien won't attack them. It will attack you instead. This is completely down to how the director AI works. The director AI makes the alien focus on you primarily. So if there's human enemies and they don't ever cross paths with the alien, they just won't ever be killed by it. Yes, you can bait the alien into killing them for you, but I feel like if there is other human AI on the level, the director should use that as almost as a way to trick the alien, to say that there is humans in these 2 areas and it can investigate either one of them. You should also be able to use the human enemies to your advantage to distract the alien, I feel like. I don't know, I just felt like there was multiple points in this game where there would be a human enemy screaming and shouting and the alien would just walk right past them. And it just kind of threw me out a bit, and it was kind of annoying when they would shoot at me, the alien would turn around and spot me first instead of the guy shooting the gun. Nitpick, again, I know. But if you aren't good at these kinds of games, you will very quickly find yourself getting either confused or frustrated by these sections, which can take as little as 10 minutes or can extend for hours. And I feel like the hard save system is only really here to extend playtime. There are sections which can go on for 20-30 minutes, and if you mess them up, you got to do it all again. But finding the code for the doctor, he now unlocks the elevator down to the area which has the supplies that we are after. But guess what? Alan the alien has decided he don't want him living, so now we need to hurry down the elevator to the next section, and here we get access to the stun baton, a melee weapon which we can use to stun temporarily the working Joes. Useful but not game changing, and you don't get that many of them. But within this section we can find another recording that is extremely important to understand what happened.
This is Lingard, Senior Medical Officer at Sevastopol Station. I want to state for the record, I have been placed under duress with regards to my patient Zero. And Ransom, Seegson's head of operations, he made certain threats for my career and my certification. I want that on record. God.
Hold me.
That woman needed help. I didn't know what type of parasite she had encountered, but it had planted something inside her. I am so sorry. I had no way of knowing what would happen.
So a creature placed a parasite inside a woman who came aboard the station. Sounds like a face hugger and a chest burster, which then turned into the xenomorph we currently have stalking us. But it seems that the higher-ups wanted to keep it hush-hush, threatening the medical workers into not revealing this thing and not actually exposing it to the wider station. How fun. But what is fun for us is we can find a blueprint for the Molotov, which is extremely useful. The alien doesn't like fire, and the Molotov will be the one item that you can craft that will force the alien to retreat if you hit it with it. If the alien is set on fire and a certain amount of damage is done to it, it will run away and disappear into the vents for a small amount of time. This is one of the most consistent ways to get the alien off of you or save yourself from being killed when it spots you, is to set it on fire. But now after unlocking the next section, we have to do the most convoluted set of events to get through the next door, which involves us having to start the evacuation protocol in the medical facility to get through a locked door. And man, I'm going to say it now, this is a problem this game has. Your objective almost all the time is simple. Our objective was to get a trauma kit in a medical area. That should be like finding candy in a candy shop. It should just be easy to find. But the amount of times this game will throw another objective and another roadblock in your path. You need to find a key card, restart a generator, find a code, do this, do that. There is so many of these that it almost is comical the amount of shit you have to do. Alien Isolation on How Long to Beat, which is a community-driven game recording time thing, basically users upload how long it took them to beat the game. Alien Isolation on average has a completion time of 18 to 20 hours. That is fucking long for a horror game. If you want to know, I beat it in 12. I honestly think you could cut a lot of the fat out of this game and you could get it down to 8 to 10 hours. Like, you could really cut it down. Did a lot of these people read all of the notes and do a lot of exploring? Maybe. Maybe that's what this extra 6 hours to 10 hours that I'm missing is. But I feel like even in 12 hours, this game has a significant amount of bloat to it. If you want my honest opinion, I would say there's probably about 4 hours of significant content in this game that actually warrants it being there. The rest of it feels like padding or is just shit that's there for the sake of being there. So much of the game, it feels padded, and the more you struggle with the game, the more the padding appears. These objectives at the beginning of the game, especially these first ones, I thought they were fine. It felt fun. The game was obviously trying to encourage you to be more engaged with that gameplay. But as we get to the end parts of the game, my god, it just goes on and shit happens just so it can extend it for another 20 minutes. Just constantly. It really does just pad itself beyond anything. I think this is one of my biggest complaints about this game. I know people always say, but having more game is better. This is always something that I think people really struggle to understand. Think of a game as a cake. Some cakes you could eat a shit ton of. You can just eat them forever and you won't feel terrible. But some games, they are like a very rich chocolate cake. Yes, they taste great, but eat too much of it and it starts to get a bit bad. The taste turns sour. This is what padding does to a game. Yes, Alien Isolation has some of the best things about it. It has some of the best atmosphere, some of the best world building, some of the best texture work, voice acting, sound design, everything I like about it. But unfortunately, once you start padding it, cracks start to form and the taste sours in your mouth. Games in this genre, unfortunately horror, cannot be this long. 20, 30, 40 hour long games in horror don't work because you will stop being scared of the thing that you're running from. The Alien to me isn't that scary because I played Aliens Colonial Marines when I was younger, and unfortunately that game makes the Xenomorphs look like a joke. This again is a nitpick by me, but I almost understand where a lot of the more mixed reviews are coming from by the critics back in the day. I think back in the 360 to the Xbox One era, critics were actually a lot more critical on games for issues like this. I don't know, I feel like back in the 360 to like PS4, Xbox One generation, I feel like games overall were better quality, but there was still that like base level of like just shit AAA games, just in a different form. I think now developers are a lot more, for lack of better word, lazy, because they know that they can update the game after the fact. Because back then, like updating the game and patching it after was still kind of new. Like the 360 was the first time it was possible to do that, so that's when they started to do it. But I feel like back in the 360 PS3 generation, the game was always expected to be good on release. So I think scores, especially in reviews, reflect that. So any game that had major issues like this was seen a lot more harshly. But now, of course, you get the asterisks of, oh, the game has game-breaking bugs at the moment, but give it 3 months and it'll be fine now, and they give it a good score. Is this a problem in the game industry? Yes, it is a massive problem that I really do wish would go away, and I think there needs to be some sort of law change for it. And luckily there is currently, with Stop Killing Games going through the EU system. Hopefully that does lead to games then having to be fully playable, fully completable, and 100% on physical media when they release in a physical version. Like, I'm so sick of games releasing with, oh, but you need to download the other 50% of the game off the internet, which completely defeats the purpose of the disc. But I do just think critics were very critical back then, and I also think game critics were better back here because they were judged for the actual quality of their review, not just what score they gave it. Unfortunately, now critics are just looked at to what score did you give the game, not actually their review, because reviews were very important back then because you couldn't often look up videos that quickly, or demos were not really available and were becoming a bit more extinct at this point. So actually having a good reviewer was important, and someone that was extremely critical and understood what they were talking about was important. This led to a lot of people being extremely critical of games. There was a lot of games during this sort of period, the transition period, which either scored really low or somewhat good, but it was seen as a bit of an odd score for the game. And that's just because the people they got to review them were extremely critical of the games. But I think a lot of these games very clearly showed what was the intention by developers back then. We still have it now. People expect games to be stupid long because they need to warrant the price tag, which is wrong. If you're forcing a game to be longer than it needs to be, then you're missing the point of the game. That's not the point. But I genuinely do think game critics back then were more critical, and I think the person that did review Alien Isolation for IGN did see a lot of these issues, and he did understand that these are big things that he doesn't like. So it obviously affected the score greatly. Was he still a bit harsh? Yeah, definitely, considering that there are games that IGN have given 10s which do not deserve it in any way, shape or form. But this is actually a big issue I have with almost all big game critic sites like IGN, GameSpot, all of them. Any big website that has reviews for every game that comes out, basically. The main problem they have is they have something like 20, 30, 40 reviewers who write the review, and then they have someone else read the review. So a lot of stuff gets lost in translation. But this is a big issue that a lot of these big companies have. They just have too many reviewers. That means that the scoring system makes no sense, and their consistency amongst their reviews makes no sense. You have too many people who value completely different things in each of these games. So once you do get someone that is more critical on a game and they give it a lower score, they get shit for it. It happened here with Alien Isolation, it happened with Days Gone, it happens all the time. But this is why people don't trust these websites now, because they just are not consistent. You can't gauge who is actually writing these reviews, and most people don't care who's writing these reviews. They just see the score and they react to it. But if you actually read the review, you do see a lot of the issues that this person had, and I agree with a lot of the issues he had for Alien Isolation. But this is a big issue, and some other aspects of the game I do think are lacking, such as the gun combat and almost forcing us to do gun combat. I would actually prefer we never get weapons. I would much prefer that we only get tools to distract, disrupt, or obscure ourselves. We don't ever get a weapon that can damage things, because I feel like that would honestly be a better horror game, but also it would fall into what makes Amnesia so great. It can focus on the puzzles, it can focus on the cat and mouse gameplay and making that more engaging. Anyway, let's carry on. Now starting the evacuation process, we can escape through the locked door, but guess what? The place just starts to blow up, so we need to escape up this ladder into the vents, and with the supplies that we have retrieved, we now go back down to Taylor, and that requires us to head down this elevator, but we need to fix it to go down. Fucking hell, really again? We need to find another item now to carry on. We just want to get the med kit. So exploring this area, we quickly find a compression cylinder with the help of some friendly worker Joes. We retrieve one and then take it back to said elevator and then use it to go down the elevator. But hey look, the alien has returned and these guys are shooting at it. So sneaking past them and the alien, we finally make it back to Samuels and Taylor. That was about 3 to 4 hours of gameplay if you want to know, just to get this one trauma kit. At this point, Taylor would have bled out completely. But unfortunately, as we return to them, we find that the marshals have found Samuels and Taylor, holding them at gunpoint.
I sent you a clear directive not to land on station.
I told you we didn't hear your message. We understood you would be...
Hey!
Identify yourself.
Ripley, from the Torrens.
Relax, kid.
What the hell is going on here, Marshal? Where's the security forces?
You're looking at them.
I've seen the creature. What is it?
I don't know. Something brought here by Marlowe, the captain of the Anisadora.
The ship that found the flight recorder.
Is there anywhere safe left on this station? That creature's running around and the Seeks and synthetics are less than friendly.
Goddamn androids.
Ripley. Taylor needs attention.
Medical's a no-go. We can't take her there.
We have a basic life support unit back at HQ.
Then let's go.
It is revealed that the Xenomorph came from the Anisadora, the ship which found the flight recorder that we came here for. But now we make our way to the Marshal Bureau and help get Taylor to that office and its life support unit. But we have to head out to the transit control to reactivate the transit system. And within the transit control room, turning all the systems back on, we can retrieve an ion torch, allowing us to open locked doors and vents, which is a very useful bit of kit. And using it, we can make our way back to the transit station to travel to the Marshal Bureau, and we can regroup with the group, and they have another job for us in order to deal with the Xenomorph and remove it from the station.
Taylor.
Stable. Should be walking soon enough. Samuels is with her now.
Okay.
You managed to get transit up and running, so I guess we're even.
Where's Ricardo?
Prepping our next move. Look, I'm busy. I've got Marlowe in the cells, the lowlife who showed up with your flight recorder.
Where's Marlowe's ship? The Anisadora.
He put it in a parking orbit around the gas giant. Son of a bitch won't give us the command codes to let us bring it in on auto. Maybe you can get more out of the unhelpful bastard. Go talk to him.
But they have another job for us to get some information from a prisoner.
Marlo?
Who wants to know?
My name's Ripley. I'm with the company.
Here for your empty box already? You guys are keen, I'll give you that.
I'm here for personal reasons. My mother was on the Nostromo when it went missing 15 years ago.
You serious? Shit. Well, shit. We never found her ship, Ripley. Just the recorder.
But you sure as hell found something else. What happened out there?
I need a way out of here, Ripley. Maybe we can make a deal.
Just start talking. I want to know everything.
So now we go have a chinwag with Marlo to see if he will tell us the code to bring his ship in so we can investigate what's on board the Anisadora. And we now cut to see what happened when they found the flight record. And honestly, I'm going to skip over this whole section. Basically, they found a Xenomorph ship where the signal sent them. Inside, they found like the body of one of the pilots. They found the eggs and whoopsie, facehugger on them, which led to one of his crew, the woman that he loved, being implanted by a chest burster, brought her to Sevastopol for treatment, and boom, Xeno is on the station now. There you go. But with Marlo not being very helpful in actually bringing the ship in, as he doesn't tell us the code, we now head back out into the station, but not before being gifted a very useful item, the flamethrower. The flamethrower, I will be honest, I think ruins the game completely. I understand it's meant to be a thing for the Alien franchise, you know, Ripley in the film had a flamethrower, so we want the player to play with the flamethrower. But man, I think this ruins the game. The alien doesn't like fire, and the flamethrower, if used on the alien, forces it to retreat into the vent. On harder difficulties, I'm not sure if it's as game-breaking. It is. With my following point, the actual fuel amount you need is 20. You can make it retreat with 20 fuel in the flamethrower, and it is the same across all difficulties. This is why the difficulty options kind of confuse me, because I feel like this game would actually benefit from not having difficulty options and just having an alien that gets progressively smarter and more aggressive as the game goes on. Honestly, I just don't like difficulty options in games a lot of the time, because I think they dumb the game down way too much on certain difficulties and then make it way too hard in others, i.e. bullet spongy enemies, or the game is a cakewalk. Anyway, let's move on. But giving us 500 fuel for the flamethrower means that you can force the alien away about 10 times if you're lucky. With 50 fuel, if you shoot it all at the alien, it will retreat sometimes. Sometimes it just doesn't. It will still stand there and look at you, and you have to shoot like 50 more. But you can get it to run away in 50. I got it a few times in 50. So if you're lucky, you get 10 alien spots on you before you run out of ammo and you might die on the next one. The flamethrower makes the game way too easy in my eyes on the standard difficulty, which is what I was playing on. Liar. For context, that's what I like playing every game on when I play them, because that's what the developers, I believe, intend the difficulty to be. I want to see what the standard difficulty is, what is the intended way to play the game. So for me, it's a bit of a shame that now that we get about halfway through the game, we get this item which just completely trivializes the cat and mouse sections. I'm not joking, I stopped hiding at this point. You get so much flamethrower ammo that if you scavenge well enough, you can replenish it fairly easily. And entire sections, you can just force the alien away, and if you hide once or twice, boom, you get through it and you use about 200 flamethrower ammo in total. I think this ruins the game. I genuinely think it ruins the game because it just discourages you from the cat and mouse gameplay. It's faster to shoot the thing with the flamethrower and just carry on. But anyway, what is this plan that Marshall Waits here wants us to do? Well, he wants us to trap the Xeno and force it to stay in one part of the station. So now we head out to that specific part of the station to prepare it to trap the Xenomorph. So we head to the Systech Spire, and we head on over to the server hub, and here the alien does kill some more people as we sneak on by into the server hub. But to start with our trap, we need to start sealing all the doors to trap the alien inside. But once we do that very thing, guess what? Shit goes wrong. We get stuck inside as well, and Ricardo can't lift the lockdown on one of the doors to let us out. So to let us out and save us from the alien, he lifts the entire lockdown, allowing the alien to escape and also us to escape, much to the annoyance of Marshall Waits. But as we wait for this lockdown to lift, we can talk about another item that we can retrieve and have found. That being the noisemaker, one of my favourite items and one I found the most useful in actually keeping the Xenomorph distracted for a significant amount of time. Throw it and it's basically a pipe bomb from Left 4 Dead 2. It makes noises until it stops making noises, but it doesn't explode. And this entire time the Xenomorph will just go over to it and look at it. It's solid and it is extremely useful. But I hate to do this. At this point in the game, you will have flares, molotovs, noisemakers, and flamethrowers. Flares, I think you can carry 6 of them. Noisemakers, you can carry 3. Flamethrower, you can have 500 ammo in the mag, and molotovs, you can carry 3. You can distract the alien 6 times with the flares, 3 times with the noisemakers. You can force it into the vent 3 times with the molotovs, and you can force it up to 10 times into the vents with the flamethrower. That's not even counting stunning it with flashbangs, using smoke to obscure yourself, and the shotgun to stun it. You have so many items to distract, to stun, and to just push the alien away that it's no longer the cat and mouse game that I thought the game was going to be. I really thought Alien Isolation for the entire thing was you having to hide and stealth your way around the alien. But at this point, it turned into something very different. It basically turned into Resident Evil 2 Remake with Mr. X. The alien will kill you if it touches you, so you use every item you have to keep it off of you for as long as possible so you can complete a puzzle and move on to the next area where it doesn't spawn. I think Alien Isolation, as the game goes on, gets worse and worse, and I think that's such a shame because it gets worse because we get more items to combat the alien, but because of how these items are used, it just changes the entire game. Honestly, I don't actually know how you would fix this issue, but to me, it feels like there's 2 games within the Alien Isolation that are clashing with each other. You have the more traditional survival horror that is Resident Evil inspired with all these items you can use, but also the Amnesia/Outlast game that is more focused on stealthing and avoiding enemies as much as possible. It just feels like there's a clash. Whenever I used these items, I felt like I was playing the game wrong and it made the game way less fun. I remember there was a section where you have to call a transit car and the alien's in the room. It's a small room. You'll very easily die if it spots you. So I was just throwing items in a corner of the room just to keep it off of me for like 2 minutes. It's not fun, but the game gives you the items and it's the easiest way to deal with that engagement. This is a massive nitpick by me, but I feel like this is an issue the game has. It feels like it's chasing 2 game design philosophies for what it wants to be, and it doesn't really do either like amazingly well. It isn't a great survival horror game in my opinion, but it also isn't that great of what the actual survival horror items, the tools we get, almost ruin the cat and mouse Amnesia style horror game that we have. I hope you get what I'm trying to say, because I don't want to hate on this game just saying it's shit. I genuinely do think this is a big issue, and I hope they find a way to address this in the sequel, because I don't really think you can address this in the sequel without just taking stuff away from the player. So how would I do it? I would improve how the hide and seek gameplay works, give us more options of where we can go into, where we can hide, give us vents that go in different directions, maybe more interactable objects in the level, being able to set off fire extinguishers or set off certain noises in the medical bay for beeping noises or whatever. That'd be how I would try go around it, but hey, I'm not a game designer, I'm just a dickhead on the internet. The game started very clearly as a game inspired by Amnesia, but now it's become a game that's almost inspired by Resident Evil, which is fine, but I think the game works best as one that is that Amnesia-inspired one. The cat and mouse game where the alien is unrelenting. You cannot stop it if it spots you. I think, honestly, if you get spotted by the alien, you should be killed unless you stun it with, like, say, a flashbang, or you obscure yourself with a smoke grenade, and you hide fast enough. But these items make it way too easy now. I'd actually be very interested to see on harder difficulties if the alien is as easily distracted by these items. But reaching our destination now, we have to restore access to the distribution section, all the while the alien hunts us. Again, shame we have the flamethrower, making this section a complete cakewalk. But we also get an upgrade to our iron torch, allowing us to cut open more types of doors, and with this we can restore power and now run around to flip all the required breaker switches. which then unlock a freight lift to our destination, the research labs, which is where we find some recordings about some samples being sent out for research, and they need to be treated with extreme caution and kept on the down low. They don't want anything to be revealed, or it would be their heads telling us a little bit of corporate corruption, they're doing something they shouldn't be, is going on, or maybe individual corruption. Maybe the corporations aren't corrupted, it's just these individuals. But what are they studying? Well, it probably has something to do with the alien itself. But the research station part of Sevastopol is unique in that it can be completely separated from the rest of the station. So our plan is to lure the alien in, trap it, and then detach that part of the station, ridding the alien from Sevastopol. So getting the research station facility ready to be ejected, we then start to make our way to the exit, but guess what? Marshal Waite can't wait 4 more seconds for us to get out, and he sends the entire thing flying. So now we need to escape from here and get back to Sevastopol by flinging ourselves back while in an EVA suit. And returning, we make it very clear we are not happy about what just happened and almost dying. And this part of the game, the alien is removed for about, I'd say, 3 hours maybe, until it's revealed that there is another one, or more than one. But with us making now enemies of the Marshal Bureau, we need some new kit to deal with these enemies, and thus we get the shotgun, the best gun in the game, and this is when the game turns into a really bad shooter. The shooting mechanics aren't fun, they're so stiff and boring, guns don't feel fun to shoot, and there's just a shit ton of worker joes that are thrown at you that you just have to shoot. There's just sections at this point where the game will throw enemies on enemies on enemies at you, and you just have to fight them. It's just boring in my opinion. Again, the main thing I liked about this game is its cat and mouse gameplay, and the fact that it's trying to move away from that now as we go on feels like a massive turn-off to me. But making our way back to the Marshal Bureau, we find that unfortunately the other people and some of the marshals are not too friendly with us, now shooting at us on sight. But as we actually make our way to the Marshal Bureau, we hear that some of the worker joes have gone rogue and have reached the Bureau, attacking everyone on site. And reaching it, we find that everyone is dead inside except Ricardo.
Rip, they're all dead.
The android slaughtered them.
Why? Why the fuck?
I don't know. But I think Samuels does.
Samuels? Why?
Wait, sent him to access Apollo. I need to find him. Have you seen Taylor and Marlowe?
No.
They're not here. I think they may have got clear. Ricardo, if I go after Samuels, can you run this place? I need eyes and ears.
I'm not fucking staying here.
Ricardo, I need you to do this. Can you man the station and keep me covered? Ricardo!
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Sit tight. Lock the fucking doors and don't let anyone in. Look after me. I'll come back for you.
Well, now we need to head out and find Samuels, who was doing his own job for the Bureau, and as we make our way there, we find a hell of a lot more dead people who all died in interesting ways, like this man with a fucking magazine shoved down his throat. But actually reaching Samuels, we can see how he deals with these working joes.
Right, then I'll have to find a way to talk to Apollo directly.
Biocontainment hazard level Omega. All permissions rescinded.
I don't have time for this.
damn, these synthetic guys are pretty strong. I hope they never go rogue. But now we enter a showroom for the worker Joes, and I'm sure you can tell what is about to happen with these boys. We release the lockdown and they all come alive, and in the next room you get so much fucking ammo, molotovs, EMPs, everything you could ever want, and you enter this massive fight section with about 10 of them. It just feels so out of place in my opinion. And then we actually reach Samuel and help him with his insane plan. So Samuels is going to reformat himself so he can communicate with Apollo, a Seegsum AI system which he can't communicate with because he's a Weyland-Yutani synthetic. But of course it doesn't go well, everything gets set on fire, we turn it off but it's too late and Samuels dies, but he does unlock the core for us so we can go talk to Apollo. Honestly, I like Samuels as a character, and I'm going to throw my hat in the ring here. I think Alien Isolation 2 needs to be something more akin to Soma, diving into the horror of being a synthetic and if they are truly a living thing. Like, it sounds like this really cool way of doing a psychological horror game, and of course you can have the aliens stalk you and like cut limbs off at some points in the game. I think that'd be really cool. I really hope Alien Isolation 2 is that, because that would be so much more interesting to me, to have a more psychological aspect brought into it alongside having the cat and mouse game, almost embodying entirely what Amnesia: The Dark Descent did so well. But hey, probably won't. It will probably just have Amanda again and it'll be another adventure. But with Samuel dead, we now leave him and make our way to Apollo. And here we reach a security checkpoint with us needing to deposit all of our weapons. Don't worry, we will get them back at one point, but for now we are slightly less deadly against the working Joes. But we now have to slip through part of the machine so we can actually enter the core to communicate with it. And after unlocking it, it reveals some very important things. Mainly that Sevastopol was acquired from Seegson by Weyland-Yutani after the ship, the Anisidora, docked here. So for some reason, whatever the Anisidora had was extremely important to Weyland-Yutani. It was either the aliens or the flight recorder. And a new order was given to all the working Joes, an order to protect the specimen. They are protecting the alien. And Amanda stating that the alien isn't on the ship, the AI system denies that, almost implying that it still is, almost like there's more on the ship. If you get what I'm putting down, you'll quickly realize that there is still more aliens that are going to be stalking us. But we slowly make our way deeper and deeper into the station, and here we will meet a new type of worker Joe, ones in hazmat suits, which protect them from EMPs and also stun batons. So we can't kill them as we don't have our guns at the moment. Actually a great point, because guess what? You bring back some of that horror again and you encourage that hide and seek gameplay. It's a shame almost immediately we're given a new type of gun. The bolt gun, a massive nail gun which fires one high-powered bolt, killing one enemy. This makes quick work of these Joes, and like 5 minutes after getting this gun, we then get all of our old guns back. So I almost question what was the point of taking the guns away from us when we're giving them back almost immediately afterwards. But we do definitely need them, as more of these fortified Joes will appear as we start moving forward. And you're going to need as many bullets as possible. And as we head on over to the reactor area is certainly a cool area. It's this massive room which has rain pouring everywhere, like a cool, unique cooling system. I find this area cool. I just like it.
Alright, editing me is back again. So I've actually been playing the game again on the harder difficulties, and a lot of my complaints about the game still stand. Even if people are going to comment that the alien and stuff learns when you reuse and overuse items, I specifically did a test using the flamethrower. You can still push that thing away too far. But my complaint about the game turning into a survival horror game way too much, and not that sneaky stealth game that focuses on the atmosphere and building up the tension, I think is really highlighted here. As you're seeing in the gameplay, I'm immediately spotted by 2 or 3 worker Joes. I can't sneak around these guys. I have to fight them. Like, yeah, I could try zip zap, ankle break, then run past them, but I have bullets. I'm going to shoot them. And this is something I don't like. The game is almost forcing you into fighting them. You can literally see here on the bridge, they're just walking towards me. There's nothing I can really do other than fight them. And I just don't like that. It feels like it's just not fun. and just a really shit survival horror game. Like, to put it base, like, honestly, I think so as a survival horror game that is then going to be competing with other games that are focused on using gunplay and resource management and ammo management, Alien Isolation falls completely flat. You get way too much ammo, you get way too many crafting materials to make stuff. I never felt like I was running out of stuff that I needed. I think maybe towards the end I was running out of ammo, but that's because I just started shooting everything that came in front of me, and I still wasn't running out. I just feel like this is a big issue I have with the game overall. Especially this section here, which is just you just shooting things for the sake of shooting things. And I've seen online a lot of discussion around it, was that the game, if it was just focused on that Outlast or Amnesia or Soma style horror, which is mainly focused on you hiding and sneaking through things, that the game would be way too long, that it would feel like it would just go on. The game's already bloated beyond anything. Alien Isolation is too long. It is. And I think the game would have benefited way more from being a shorter, tighter, leaner experience that was much more focused on the first system that it introduces, the cat and mouse gameplay and building up the atmosphere and the environmental horror. That's what the game should be focused on. I think the entire, I would say, second half of this game, you get the flamethrower at chapter 10, I think, or mission 10. I think pretty much from that point, the game is just downhill from there. The game never hits the high of, in my opinion, the medical area. The medical area is the best part of this game, and also I do think another good part is the Xenomorph nest, but that's for a different reason. I just like how that looks. The medical area, I think, is when the gameplay is at its best. I think when all these guns and other items get added in, it just kind of changes it. And as I stated earlier, you have this clash of ideologies at play. A hunter that chases two rabbits catches neither is a saying that I think applies here completely. It's clear that the developers and designers behind the game wanted to almost make two different games, but merge it into one. They wanted to take the best aspects of Resident Evil, but also the best aspects of Amnesia and Outlast. But those two games are polar opposites of horror. They are completely different and they can never coexist. And I think Alien Isolation is the perfect example of that. Is it a good game? Yes. Did I have fun with the game across all three of my playthroughs? Yes, I did. I really enjoyed the game. But I still think there is this really bad clash in the game, which makes it not that good. Like, it's nowhere near as great as it could be. And I think that's the shame of Alien Isolation. I think that's why a lot of critics saw it more negatively back in the day. I feel like it has such great systems in place, the alien AI, how it interacts with all your different weapons, items, so on and so forth, the setting, the voice, everything. The game has so much to fucking love, but it just feels like it's neutered, like it's being prevented from being what it truly could be. And this game design philosophy clash that the game has doesn't help that. Unfortunately, the alien AI, how it interacts and everything, isn't really allowed to flourish and really show off itself if you play it more like Resident Evil, if you shoot it with a flamethrower, if you distract it constantly, if you're keeping it away from you as much as possible and not allowing it to hunt you and follow you and try find you, you don't get a lot of those cool moments. You don't get the fucking terrifying moment where you're crawling through the vent trying to escape from it and then it crawls in after you. I think that's a massive shame. I'm going to cut short the ramble about game design ideologies and what I personally would want from a game like this. And I understand that my own perspective of what I wanted from Alien Isolation and what the game is almost hyped up to be, this insane cat and mouse game with this AI that is way too intelligent, almost oversells the game, mainly due to this clash later in the game that I think ruins it. I'm not going to ramble on about it, but I genuinely think Alien Isolation, if they focused on making that cat and mouse gameplay the main part, it would be, honestly, I think undeniably the best horror game we have ever gotten for that physical scare factor. The game that people play on stream and they scream at and they get terrified of. It would be the best game in this area. Would it be, in my opinion, as good as something like Silent Hill 2? Of course fucking not. Nothing will ever compare to those games. They're like the godfathers of horror. But to have a game like this that can scare you, can make you feel tense and make you shit yourself at all times, I think is what it should have focused on. Make the most
tense-filled, just heart-racing experience possible. And I feel like they almost stopped themselves from doing that. That's my big issue. Is it nitpicky? Of course. Am I going to get shit for it? Probably. But I'm not going to suck the game's dick completely when I see big issues within its foundations that are big issues to me. Anyway, back to the original script now. But reaching the end of the reactor room, we find what these worker Joes were protecting, a nest. That single chest burster that boarded this station has created an entire nest which will birth many more Xenos. So now we need to find a way to destroy the nest by overloading the reactor and destroying the nest area. I really like the nest area. I think it's actually one of the best horror areas in the game because the lighting goes out constantly. Reminds me of the medical area where the lighting's flickering constantly. That's what this has, and I just like how just disgusting it all looks. And also the face huggers here will be a main enemy that you'll have to deal with. You have to kill them instantly before they jump or they will kill you in one go. So if you hear one, kill it. But now overloading these reactors, much of the annoyance of the Xenos, we make our way back to the reactor core and overload it completely to try to destroy the nest. But of course, it doesn't go to plan. And now all the aliens have escaped and are now patrolling and hunting on the station. We awoke a much worse threat, not just an alien, but aliens. Name of the films. Oh shit, I guess we should really find a way off this station. So now we need to head back to the Marshal Bureau to meet up with Ricardo, but before that, he redirects us to the medical area as the reactor purge has reset some of the systems. So we make our way to the medical facility, and turns out Marlowe has called his ship and is within range of the short-range ambulances which can be used to reach and board his ship. So now we go there, get one, and of course the working hose, and the aliens won't make that easy. But boarding one, we quickly make our way to the Isidora and we start exploring it, hearing more of the story of the crew and the discovery of the Nostromo's distress signal. But turning the power back on, Marlowe contacts us.
Hey, Ripley. Welcome to the Isidora.
Marlowe? Where are you, Marlowe?
Thanks for switching the power back on. You saved me a job. I only needed it offline temporarily. I had some things to fix.
Ripley, Marlowe double-crossed me. Said he'd give me all the data he had on the creature so I could take it to the company, but he...
Taylor? Taylor! Marlowe, what are you doing?
What no one else seems prepared to do. Come find me, Ripley. I got something for you.
And now we go find him to have a talk with him and try to save Taylor, who he has taken prisoner. But we do find a terminal which has the Nostromo flight recorder data on it, and we can actually listen to it.
Personal message. This is for my daughter. Hi, Amanda. I'm recording this for you, my sweetheart, and I hope you get to hear it one day. You see, I got into trouble. My ship, there was an accident, sweetheart, and we found an alien creature. It was very dangerous. And the only way we could stop it was to destroy the ship. I'm okay. I'm stuck on this lifeboat, long way out. But we had to destroy the ship. We had to destroy the Nostromo. We just couldn't risk bringing that thing home with us. I needed to protect you. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. I'm sure I'll see you very soon. I love you, sweetheart.
Oh my God.
Now you understand. Overload the fusion reactor.
That'll turn the reactor into a goddamn nuke. You'll destroy the ship and the station.
It'll annihilate every trace of that creature. Ripley, it's the only way. I can't let it live. And I'm not letting the company have it, or they'll just start the whole thing over again.
Listen to me! We don't have to do this!
Stop! Stop it, Marlo!
Marlo, please.
You heard what your mother did. She understood. If she was here, she'd be helping me. You think she would want company suits knowing the zip code of that creature? No one must know.
There are still people alive on the station! Marlo!
Monster's not. She was my wife. I loved her. And I killed her.
And Marlo has been knocked out, and we now have to try to stop the overload. But guess what? Despite our best efforts, it doesn't go to plan, it still overloads. Tedder gets launched and is killed, and so is Marlo. He's killed. But we are afforded our life, and we have to escape to the ambulance and get back to Sevastopol. But upon reaching Sevastopol, we now learn that the orbital stabilizers have been damaged, and that we are currently being pulled into the gas giant planet that we are orbiting. So we need to get onto the Torrens or we die. So we have to make contact with it. Thus we make our way back to the comms, but now Seegsing Security has started patrolling the area and will shoot us on sight, and the game turns into a fairly generic shooter at this point. So now regrouping with Ricardo, we have to align the dishes with the Torrens to make direct connection to communicate through. And this whole section is actually quite the section, with us having to do this really long spacewalk to align the dishes and move them manually and then actually communicate with the Torrens. Insert the dialogue. So now we have a plan to dock the Torrens, kind of, so that we can escape the station. But of course, now the alien isn't very keen on letting us go, and Ricardo has been killed via a facehugger, so he is no longer here to help us. But actually making our way to the docking area and engaging the docking procedure, once we completely do that, we quickly grab an Eva suit, and then we are taken and placed into the wall of goo and surrounded by eggs. We then escape and then have to make our way back to the airlock. This entire section was pointless. I don't get the point of this. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see like the entire station falling apart and seeing the aliens like freaking out about it. But why was this not done earlier? I feel like this would have been way more interesting if Amanda was taken way earlier on and taken to the nest, and the whole thing was about her trying to destroy the nest. It just feels like it's extending, and the game at this point to me really did start to feel like it was overstaying its welcome. So we make our way quickly back to the airlock, grab an Eva suit and actually go outside. But here we actually start the sequence to disconnect the Torrens from the entire facility. And a couple of aliens come here to play, trying to prevent us from blowing it. But they don't catch us as we blow it up. And it allows us to escape into the Torrens as the Sevastopol descends into the gas giant. But now on the ship we make our way to the bridge, but with Verlaine not responding to us, and guess what? Somehow an alien got on board the Torrens, and now we take them into the airlock and then launch them into the abyss of space. And we only end up surviving due to a passing ship spotting us and picking us up. And this ends Alien Isolation, potentially setting up the sequel. I know there's DLC, but I'm not going to cover them because they are just remakes of scenes and sections of the movie. They are cool and I do like them, but there's not a lot for me to add. Alien Isolation is a really interesting game because to me it fully embodies the core themes, story beats and messages of the Alien franchise while creating its own identity and experience. And I do really like the game, but as a game, it definitely has some issues. It suffers from a significant amount of bloat. It has really in my opinion, basic combat systems that just aren't fun to play with, and the game forces you at times to almost play with them. But I really did enjoy my time with the game until the last few hours, where I was honestly just kind of wanting it to end. And I think it really did sour my perception of the game. The first few hours I really enjoyed it, and I still do think the alien AI and how it works is some of the best horror AI we've ever gotten in a game. It's one of the best stalker type enemies we've ever seen in gaming. And I think that is something that I can praise to death. But a lot of the other stuff the game does, I think is just not great. This video is nowhere near as long as the game takes to play, but I've summarized it pretty much completely because the game is just hours of you doing very small tasks to achieve that first objective. There's like 4 main objectives, which have like 20 side objectives each, and that almost bloats the game to an unreasonable amount, in my opinion. Is the game perfect? Fuck no, nowhere near perfect. Is it good though? Yes. It's a game of really, really high highs, but really low lows, which definitely makes part of the game feel really rough around certain edges. But for Creative Assembly's first attempt at a horror game, it's genuinely impressive what they created. It has way more heart, care and respect for what it's adapting than what most developers put out nowadays. Not only does it respect the Alien franchise, but it also uses and respects and embodies the predecessors that has inspired it. Games like Amnesia: The Dark Descent and, to a lesser extent in my opinion, Resident Evil. But in my opinion, the most impressive thing about Alien Isolation isn't even the gameplay really. It's the story and themes that are laid throughout the game that aren't even focused on. Alien Isolation acts as a thematic sequel to the original film, diving into a lot of the same ideas, especially things like the inhumanity of corporate greed and what happens when profit becomes more important than actual human lives. Sevastopol itself is literally falling apart, and multiple characters tell you this is because it is meant to be decommissioned and is being extended because the company doesn't want to build a new one or replace things. They just want to keep things stuck together with duct tape and Elmer's glue. The station is barely being held together, but the corporations behind it all are squeezing every last bit of value out of it. They want to make profit no matter what, and no matter who suffers because of it. Even if people are injured on the station, they don't care because they want to make money. And honestly, the messages that Alien has, I think, are more relevant now than ever. Not even just with corporation, but with people in general. We're going to go into politics a bit now, I'm sorry. We live in a world where powerful, influential people are constantly trying to manipulate others through fear, outrage, and of course, division, my favorite thing. Because keeping people angry and distracted is way easier than letting them stop and actually think about who benefits from the actions and things that people are doing, who benefits from the changes that governments are making, who benefits from this party and that party. And what scares me the most is how many people feel completely powerless against it and are so easily convinced of things. Most people are of 2 camps. They are either very easily convinced of something and will believe it with all their heart, or they genuinely believe nothing will ever change and just accept what is happening. They believe that corporations and powerful figures will always win. They will win no matter what happens, so what's the point of even trying? But Alien Isolation shows the opposite. People are resilient, they don't give up. Even when people are trapped in impossible situations, abandoned by the systems that are meant to protect them, and even abandoned by the people that they believe are meant to be there to make their lives better, they still fight to survive. They still try to help each other, and they still try to push back. They still try to prevent the corporations from acquiring what they want. And I think that is the most important message that this game leaves me with, especially in today's society. Greed, corruption, abuse of power, it will never disappear. But giving up is exactly what allows those things and those people to win in the first place. I could go on about the political climate in the UK and my fear of people not truly being educated on what they are voting for, and unfortunately, potentially we might live in a future where our own human rights will be taken away from us, but I'm not going to do that. All I'll say is don't give up. Make sure you educate yourself, don't let people walk all over you, and never stop questioning things. Never question, why is this happening? Why do people want this? And what is the true goal behind this? But also, don't lose the ability to think for yourself. Even if you think something is correct and right, if you think that is what should happen, question what it could lead to. Question why this is being presented to you and what the opposite of that could be. But the moment people stop resisting and stop thinking for themselves, it's the moment that what we want and what we truly care about will be lost, and we will lose control of making changes that will genuinely help people's lives. We will be no different from a synthetic worker doing what we are told for a company that doesn't care about us. You are not a number on a spreadsheet. You are your own person. What am I trying to say? Don't really know. But life can be scary. So make sure you keep fighting for what you truly believe in. Hello lads and lasses, thank you for watching. Bit of a short video. I didn't want to spend too long making this video and making it way too bloated. Just wanted to make something quick before I move on to a more personal video. I know I did say it was a coin flip between this and Dark Souls, and I do plan on doing Dark Souls next, but I'm also feeling the desire to do a longer video. Now, many people would probably think I'll be doing Loner RPG, which is the one I thought about doing, but I kind of want to do a more narrative focused game that I really want to cover. I don't know if I'll do it, so I won't confirm it, but I'm going to start playing the game, start writing and stuff, and see where it takes me. So I'll probably do Dark Souls next, and that'll be probably out in the next 2 weeks at max, I would say. But after that, I might be quite a while before I upload again, because I want to work on a bigger video in general. I don't know, it depends. If I change my mind, I might just upload regular scheduled stuff. Like I might do Dishonored 2 or Max Payne 2 or whatever next. But I'm tempted to do something a bit more different, just spice it up a bit, you know, take a big project on and really get into it again. Anyway, thank you to, of course, all the channel members, including Chelsea and Tyler, Gator, Darren76, It's Burp, Carter Phillips, Corrego, Zarolino, Kento, Omen the Turk, Ashley, Jen Caliber, Jamie Barrett, Juniper LP, Downwell Rat, Straight Gin, Synapse, Lolink12, Mr. Disappear, Shaku, Yagito, Daft Punk 58, Yavian Hammond, Coruscanta, Tyler Reeves, Saint CL, Camden Shepherd, Zartane FF14, Renegade, Sailor Peach, Seren Soji, Dracula, Honey Bumble, Not Saber, and Quietus Law, I think. Thank you all so much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And again, from this point of me recording, it is the 17th of May, meaning in about a month, it'll be my 1-year channel anniversary. So I do plan on doing the Dark Souls video for that, because that's going to be a very important video for me to make, and I want to spend time on it. And I said it'll be up in about 2 to 3 weeks or whatever. But I will extend it if I need to. I want to take my time on it. But also, I do want to do a slightly different style of video, a more community-driven video. So on my Discord, I'm going to probably do a Google forum, because it's the only way I can think about doing it. But someone suggested I do almost a video game tier list, but I want to get you guys involved. So in that, eventually I'm going to put a forum where you can be able to list your, say, I think I'll do top 10 games. You can list reasons for these games, whatever, really explain why. And I will look at them, think about them, talk about my experience with them games, and also if I think your lists are good. But I also want some hot takes, games that you think are overrated or games that you think are underrated, so on and so forth. And I will just talk about that. I know people just like it when I just talk about stuff, so I want to do more videos like this. I was tempted to do a Q&A for 50k. We're 7,000 subs away from 50k. Q&A is probably the most I'd be comfortable doing, so I might also put the Q&A within that as well for the 2-year channel anniversary. But let me know. I do want to do something special for 50k, be it that or maybe merch ideas, because I do want to have a go at doing that, because YouTube is starting to get to the point now where I kind of need to take a leap now with it, I think, and really commit to it if I want it to grow. And that is scary, but I want to use these as tests basically to see if there's the community there. Because like I see there is a community, but like if they're going to let me fly basically, because none of this is possible without any of you. Like I would not even be able to consider taking this full time without you people. God, I'm gonna get all emotional now because it's like I'm reminiscing now about when I started. Genuinely though, thank you so much. A lot. I know I've been quiet recently. I haven't really been talking a lot. I do plan on making some more, I guess, videos that do really emotionally push me. The Dark Souls will be one like that. It's going to be very much about my life, so get ready for that. But also this big one that I'm on about, it is about a game that probably pushed me emotionally the most. So it'll be a very interesting video to see what kind of script I can come up with. But if that video ever sees the light of day, it will be completely different. But the plan is I'm going to do Dark Souls next. If I think this big video is going to take me too long, I'll probably start work on, I would say, Dishonored 2, because I do actually want to play Dishonored 2. And then maybe we might talk about the big video and sort of start getting it ready to go. But even then, if I'm like not 100% on it, then it'll be probably Max Payne 2 or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of games I want to do. All the suggestions like Prey, Loner RPG, I will do them eventually, but these videos take time and there's many games I want to play and make sure that I've played and made decent videos on. Yeah, that's enough waffling from me. See you around. Crocodile.